So I'm making this quick video about my new Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K, right? Some people think it's called the 6K full frame because it says full frame right here, and everyone's called it the 6K full frame. But I think now people are in this weird middle ground where it's like, is it the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K or is it the 6K full frame? So most people are just saying, I'm using the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K, the full frame one, because we have the 6K, we have the 6K, the 6K G2, and the 6K Pro, and now we have the 6K full frame. So, but I think the proper title of this one is the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K because there's no pocket. There's no pocket. This is a humongous camera. If I had pants with pockets big enough to carry this camera, I would have big pockets. I got this camera from the Lumix S5 II. It was great. It had the same open gate feature, 6K, but it was 10-bit 422, and it only shot in log. There were ways to get Blackmagic RAW, I think, maybe ProRes, I don't know. And it just costs a lot of extra money. This shoots only RAW internally at 6K, and it'll shoot different types of 6K. Yeah, you can shoot RAW internally, which is kind of a big deal. Don't need a monitor. It basically has a monitor on the back. But how do you see yourself when you're filming yourself? I can't, and it's crazy. I've tried to make a few videos, and it takes a really long time to get in focus. I have to get up and go around it, look at the footage, and shift it, and yeah. Also, you guys might be hearing some super crispy audio. I just recently replaced this XLR to 3.5 millimeter mic jack that was going to my Sennheiser MKE400 with a Condor Blue XLR to XLR mini cord, which I can either plug in directly to my shotgun mic and put it on top of my cage, or what I'm doing right now, I'm booming it with an XLR cord overhead. And this is really cool because with the mic jack, it would not feed phantom power. And so I had to use batteries on this microphone. Not only was that an issue because it would always die because I'd always leave it on, which is, yes, my fault. Not only is that an issue, the mic was just super quiet when I used a mic jack. Now with the phantom power, it is beautifully louder. Not super loud. Like this is plus 24 gain on the camera. I just think it's so great that I can plug an XLR cord kind of directly into my camera and get phantom power from my camera. I'm sure that's probably been around on cinema cameras before, but never at this price. Like, this camera cost just like $600 more than my last camera did, and I kind of found it for a steal. I got this camera for $1,400 on mpb.com, but I traded in my Lumix camera for like $1,250, which is really cheap. They screwed me over, but for what I was getting, I got this at a really good price, and I got DaVinci Resolve with it, which is absolutely awesome. I've been wanting to get DaVinci Resolve Studio for a long time. It just completely changed my world because I never wanted to be the dude who started rigging up his camera. Even in my last video, I was like, I'm not a cinematographer, so I don't rig up my camera. Now I have a cage. It's been like a week since I made that video, maybe 2. I have a cage. I am not going the traditional route. Maybe I should. People are probably going to criticize me for this, but I bought a NPF battery plate adapter that I can plug into my camera through D-Tap, I think is what it's called. Maybe T-Tap, I don't know. And it powers my camera for a really long time using one small rig, one of those small rig NPF batteries with the screen on it. More people know about the V-mount one, probably not so much this NPF one. It is a little wonky. I just have it in the center of my cage in order to try to balance it, and then I have it plugged into the side of my camera onto the TDAP port, and it's not a huge nuisance. Actually, I'm trying to add more weight to the setup because one of the gripes about this camera is there's no in-body stabilization, and my lens is not image stabilized is the word. So having this cage and having all these things is helping me to stabilize it. That's what all the pros say is weigh down your rig and it'll be easier to shoot steady handheld footage. It's not going to be like gimbal-like. It's not going to be gimbal-like, but it's going to be a lot better. So that's been helpful for sure. I wish there was a way I could make it less wonky. I'm glad that I don't have to look over the top of my camera because this is sticking up like 4 inches, and it looks like my camera has a mohawk. I'm using the Tilta cage. I've never used a cage before, so I don't know Tilta versus small rig. Small rig looked like it had some cooler things. What I love about the Tilta one, it's probably the same on the small rig, is there's like this tool that magnetically sticks to the bottom to adjust and take apart and put back together the cage. And that was so handy. The other day, I felt my cage getting loose, which is kind of trash, but I felt it getting loose while I was out on a walk with my wife and my kids, and I was in the middle of this nature sanctuary, and I was like, now what in tarnation do I do while this is loose? Like, it wasn't a big deal, but it was like, what would I do in this scenario? And then I looked at the bottom and I remembered, there it is, the tool. And I tightened it up and it was good as bananas. I absolutely love the image coming out of this camera. I was scared, genuinely, that I was going to switch to this camera and it was just going to be the same thing. I think everybody who tries to make videos and YouTube and are on an amateur scale like I am, they try to do what other people do that works for them, and they don't get the same results, and there's this discouragement, there's this frustration, there's this like, why does their footage look so good and mine doesn't? And that just wasn't the case with this. I mean, I don't have amazing looking footage, but just out of the camera, there's this contrast and like these colors. It's 12-bit, and it just looks so good. And the details of the 6K are just so immersive. I just love it. Which brings me to this other thing. It's not even really about the camera, but this happened when I got the camera. I started watching different YouTubers, and there is a breed of YouTuber that shoots on Blackmagic cameras, and they are the best. Typically, they are not trying to sell you things. They are genuinely trying to tell you how good your equipment you have already is, and they want you to know how to use it so that you get a beautiful image. And this brings me to my new favorite YouTuber, and I'll just share that with you guys because I'm so amazed by this dude. His channel is called Of Two Lands. Unfortunately, he's a French guy, but despite that, he has the most amazing videos ever. They're just beautiful. And what inspires me about this guy is he has this simplistic approach, not going beyond what his capabilities are with his equipment, but using, I don't want to say cheap, but like cheaper equipment. Like, he doesn't go above and beyond and like get everything so he can do everything. He just gets what he needs and uses it, as far as what I can see. And he makes all these travel films and documentaries. And what's so inspiring about those two is like he's using the same camera I have, and he's going handheld, no gimbal, and no autofocus. And he's just like, yeah, it can be done. And he shows it. And people are like, a lot of people are like, yo, what the heck? There's no way. And I'm just like, that is so encouraging to me. And so, I don't know, dude, it just amps me up. I'm like, man, I want to go do that. Like, he can do it that way, which means I can do it that way. I just need to figure it out. And this man, I don't know how he does it, but his compositions are absolutely beautiful. It's like, and especially with the 6K open gate, it's like he's shooting pictures, and he finds these picturesque compositions and just holds it still for a few seconds. And it's just like these beautiful immersive photos, landscapes, cities, even in the documentary. He is the proof that you can have nothing going on, there could be nothing coming to you as far as content and story and things like that, and you can just find it. I think he made a documentary about his sister, like riding a bike and climbing rock walls. And I think that's just insane. Sorry, that was a side rant. But still, that being true, this camera is far more difficult to use than the Lumix. The Lumix camera was stable no matter what. I could whip that thing around. I could just do all the crazy stuff, get the B-roll, and it looked good, or at least I knew I could correct it in post. And it was usually getting me more than halfway there in camera. So this is definitely a learning curve, but I think it's worth it. And what I said in my last video is what I stand by today, that at the end of the day, what I wanted in a camera is a better picture. And I think that Blackmagic, even though they strip down the camera of all these features and all these things, they give you some of the most beautiful images you could possibly get. And it's weird. It's like an interesting trade-off where it's like you can get these cameras that look really good, like a Lumix or a Sony or a Canon, and get the weather sealing and get the peace of mind through autofocus and the image stabilization, but it's just not going to have that edge. Now it could. There are some Sonys and some Canons like higher higher end, and you can get a really good and professional looking image with all those cameras at $2,000 and up. No questions asked. That's not what I'm saying. I just think that the Blackmagic cameras, shooting RAW, shooting 12-bit, all that, they have an edge, and their color science is fantastic for the price. But it is a slap in the face to someone who can only afford this and really supports Blackmagic when they won't weather seal your camera. Because here's the deal. If all I have is $2,600 to buy this camera, and it's for budget filmmaking. So like, don't be like, oh, like if you want something cheaper, get something cheaper. If that's all I can spend, and I go and I get it, I'm like, yes. Do you think I can afford to replace it as soon as some dust gets into it, or I get caught in the rain? Unfortunately, as great as weathermen are, like weather is just unpredictable, and it can rain here in a matter of a few seconds, and it could stop, but I can still get caught in it. And those are my gripes with the camera, and it's a real, like, I'm incredibly perplexed by why Blackmagic would even do that. I'm pretty sure even the 6K Pro isn't weather sealed, and it's like, okay, I don't think you can call a camera pro if it's not gonna be pro build quality. Because at the end of the day, all these cameras, Blackmagic, they're all pro quality, and that's great. But we need some weather sealing. We need some stability, like, not stability, but like some surety. Like this is going to last. Like that is one of the intriguing things of how, like, this dude of two lands, he goes and does these travel films, and it's like, okay, if he can do that with a Blackmagic, and he's not worried about it, yeah. And same with documentary filmmaking. Like all those kind of films, they're run and gun. They're what's going on. Let me go capture it, and who knows what could happen. You know, that's why that's inspiring. But I'll show you a little bit of footage. Here's like a little reel that I did of me cleaning a hot tub at work, and I know I could get better footage, but I think the beauty of this camera is you can just set it on a tripod and get good footage. Also, let me mention this. When it comes to the image stabilization on this camera, people have talked about it by now. There's a camera gyro where it'll read the lens data, and then it'll track the gyro, and then it'll go into DaVinci Resolve, and you can try to stabilize it using the gyro data or data, wherever you know. And it's rough. People say it's perfect. There are ways to make it look okay if you're just doing pretty, like, smooth movements already. If you need to do the gimbal walk handheld. Some people say to raise your shutter speed, because the biggest issue with the gyro data stabilization is that you get these like jitters, these motion blur jitters, and it looks so bad. Like it's unusable for the most part. If you just yeah. But the great thing about the gyro data thing, and people have talked about this as well, you can completely eliminate rolling shutter for the most part just by setting the correction to like 1. So it won't really correct any of the stability, but it'll crop in a little bit and it'll correct the rolling shutter, which is great. Check this out. Let me know what you guys think about the camera.